hand over to Casey now, who's taking us to Virunga and to talk through a really cool tool that you've developed for dealing with giant drone data sets, right? Do you want to take it away?
Yeah. So, hi everyone. My name's Casey. I'm an engineer at Virunga National Park, and I'm a software developer. And I'm going to tell you about how we do drone mapping in the park and a tool I built called Simple Drone Maps to help us make use of all of our imagery. So, a little overview: Virunga is located in the eastern DRC. Home to about a third of the world's mountain gorillas. There's also about 80,000 people living within the park, and many more within just a day's walk of the park. So there's a lot of pressure on the resources and the land itself within the park. We have a lot of issues with agricultural encroachment and deforestation and overfishing. So we need ways to monitor these really big landscapes to monitor some of these threats. So this led us about a year ago to use drones as a way to collect really high resolution imagery of large areas of the park. And this helps us in a number of different ways. One is more an operational side of things, helping us plan patrols and helping us coordinate patrols while rangers are out in the field. If we have really high resolution imagery, we know just a lot more about the terrain in which our staff is working, so that's helpful. The next is as a land use analysis tool. So using high resolution satellite imagery or high resolution imagery to monitor some of those threats that I mentioned, like agricultural encroachment. But also outside of the park, we want to understand more about how people are farming, what they're farming, so that we can kind of target different programs more effectively. And last is kind of a more experimental use case for this imagery, but we're looking into ways to monitor invasive plants and possibly some large wildlife like hippos or buffalo. And then, as you can see in this image here, we could also use our images to like monitor boats on the lake. And so the reason for using drone maps in the first place is that the off-the-shelf base maps that you'd find in Google Maps or something like that are insufficient for most of these use cases. And that's because they're often really out of date. They're very high resolution, but they might be a few years old. So we need something more current. The other alternative to using drones is to purchase satellite imagery, but that can be really expensive, especially over really large areas. So for our drone monitoring program specifically, we have some of these requirements. We need to map most of the park annually. It's a really large area, so we have to think about how to get some extra range out of our drone. We also want to be able to use the equipment that we use for mapping in other uses as well. Like if we buy a drone, we want to use it for mapping, but also for surveillance for rangers and stuff like that. So yeah, and once we have a map, we want to be able to distribute it easily to different members of our team, from the research department to security, and even to infrastructure. And we also want to be able to integrate these base maps into other tools that we're using, like GIS software, or mobile apps that our rangers take out into the field, or Earth Ranger as well. And then we want to be able to do this on site, so we don't have any kind of internet issues. So I'm going to focus mainly on the software for this talk, but just to give you an overview of the hardware we're using all off-the-shelf drone equipment. It's on the higher end of things. And you can see here we have a drone strapped to a light aircraft, and this kind of gets into what I mean by like multi-use equipment. So rather than purchasing like a dedicated aircraft-based mapping solution, we used a conventional drone that we can use on the aircraft with just some zip ties, or we can use it as a regular drone, and it just gives us a lot more flexibility in that way. The other thing is we have a very powerful server at one of our patrol posts where we do all of the processing. So yeah, I'm mainly going to focus on the software. So once we come back from a flight, we have a bunch of raw images, and you need software that's going to stitch all of those images together and assign coordinates to each pixel. So we use Pix4D Mapper for that. And then once we have that image, this is where the tool I built comes in, called Simple Drone Maps. So we build our map, and then we find a way to upload it, usually just like queue an upload overnight. So we get that onto Simple Drone Maps, and this serves as kind of like a hub where we can easily integrate our base maps into other tools like QGIS and Mapbox. So yeah, these are the tools that we would use to actually do some analysis or view from a mobile app. So yeah, to get into a bit more about Simple Drone Maps, it's an aerial image web platform. You can upload your large GeoTIFF files, and what the system does is process it and creates a web efficient version that you can easily load on the web. So you can take this, in this case, a 30 gigabyte GeoTIFF file, and load it on the web in just a few seconds. And what happens is as you zoom in, it starts to load a higher resolution image of that specific area. So you don't load the entire data set at once. And soon you'll be able to add notes and different types of annotations, and you can already measure things and download the original files if you want to. And importantly for us, you can share these really easily with others, just by sending a link. Also for us, it's easy to integrate into our mobile app that rangers take out with them. So you can see on the bottom, it's a drone image, and on the top is like a conventional base map. So it provides us a lot more kind of granularity. So yeah, thanks for listening. My call to action is to visit simpledronemaps.com and test it out, and let me know what you think. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Casey. I've dropped a link to simpledronemaps.com in the chat, so people can access it pretty easily. So you've got a pretty cool... Is there anything in particular you just want feedback from people, or is there anything else that you would like?
Yeah, I just kind of want to know how people are using some of these aerial images and some of the challenges they currently face making use of them.
Okay, cool. I'm really happy. Thank you for joining us. It was really Casey and I met up at Earth Ranger a couple of weeks ago, and this is one of the tools he was telling me about, and it just sounded like such a useful piece of software for anyone using drones. So I'm really happy that you were able to pop on and tell us about it so quickly. So thank you so much.